Today I'm setting on a challenge to bake all the bundt cakes in this amazing book, The Bundt Cake Collection by Bake from Scratch. It has over 100 bundt cake recipes, all different flavors of flavor of the month bundt cake, and I am going to set forth and do every single one, hopefully every single one, and do a bundt cake a week to get through the book. So I'm super excited to go on this journey and this challenge, and I hope you join along with me. So the first one I'm going to do is the bundt cake of the month for August, which is a s'mores bundt cake. Just look how delicious that looks. And what I love about these recipes is they're pretty straightforward, pretty simple, and I just love the whole Bake from Scratch collection, their magazine. I collect all their books, and I have not come across a recipe that I baked from them that I did not love. And I just love everything. And everything is super delicious. The flavors are amazing. So today I'm going to be making the s'mores bundt cake. So come along with me and join me on this journey. So I have all my ingredients measured out. I have my butter, my milk, my dry ingredients, sugar, cocoa powder, and eggs. Everything is coming to room temperature. And then you need your bundt pan. So the recipe calls for a 10-cup bundt pan. And I don't have the one that is pictured that they use, but I'm just using the traditional Nordic ware bundt pan that I got. And I like this one. It's really big. It holds a lot of stuff. And the great thing about bundt cakes is even if the recipe calls for a 10-cup bundt pan, if you have a larger one, you could bake in a larger one. You just can't bake it if it calls for like a 16-cup one. You can't bake in a 10-cup one. It obviously won't fit. So I'm going to start by getting my pan all ready, and the key thing, because there's a lot of grooves, you want to make sure it's buttered and floured. So you can either butter it and flour it yourself, or you can use this spray that has butter and flour already. The best way to prep your pan is to use Baker's Joy. This is the non-stick baking spray with flour, and you just spray it all over your pan in all the grooves. If I can get it out. There we go. Just spray it all in. You want to spray it liberally, and this is what it looks like. So it's got flour and butter mixed in. Next thing you want to do is make sure you preheat your oven to 325. You want to go low with this and slow because it's a nice thick pan. It's a nice thick cake. You want it timed to bake on the inside and not burn on the outside. So low and slow, 325 in your oven. And I always like to lower my racks down to the bottom third so that there's plenty of room from the top to the bottom. And so that when it rises up, it doesn't get too close to the heating element and burn. So make sure you do that. Now that I got my pan set and ready, and I have that off to the side, I'm going to start with my mixer. I'm going to put in the butter. This is softened butter, and I'm going to mix it with the sugar. And you want to make sure it's nice and fluffy. This is unsalted butter, a stick and a half. And then you're going to mix it with your white sugar. You're using your paddle attachment. And you're going to mix it until it's light and fluffy. It's probably going to take about 3 to 4 minutes. As your butter and sugar are creaming, you're going to want to crack your 3 eggs into a separate dish. You don't want to crack them directly into your mixing bowl. So let that mix up and then crack your eggs. So you got your butter and sugar mixed up and creamed. This is what it should look like, nice and fluffy. With your mixer on low speed, you're going to add in your eggs one at a time. Okay, as it's mixing up, you're just going to add in your vanilla extract. I like to measure it with my heart, but about 1 tablespoon is enough, and that's probably the rest of my bottle. You're going to mix this up, scrape it down as needed so that everything gets off your paddle attachment and off the side of your mixing bowl. Scrape it off. Give it a quick little mix, and then we're going to start getting our dry ingredients together. looks a little curdled right now. That's fine. The batter will come together. So don't panic in this situation. But now we're going to add in our dry ingredients, which is a mixture of cake flour, graham cracker crumbs, some salt, and some baking soda. So I left my graham cracker crumbs a little chunky, but I feel like the mixer is going to break them up. But I have them all in a bowl right here. And then I also have some whole milk. The recipe calls for buttermilk. I didn't have buttermilk, so I'm using whole milk. And you might want to add some vinegar or lemon juice in there to give it a little bit of the sour texture that buttermilk has. But we're going to add it in, alternate in between the dry ingredients and the buttermilk, beginning and ending with the dry ingredients. You got your batter all mixed up, you're just going to turn off your mixer and you're going to weigh out in a bowl about 2 cups of the batter. So I'm going to weigh it out according to the recipe, and then you're also going to want to have some cocoa powder. The recipe calls for black cocoa powder and espresso. I'm using regular cocoa powder. It's probably still going to give the same like cocoa flavor, maybe not as intense as black cocoa, and it won't be definitely as dark as black cocoa, but it will still give the same flavor. So I'm just going to measure out 2 cups or 458 grams of this delicious batter, making sure I clean off my paddle attachment. So measure out your 2 cups and then you come back. Once you measured out your 2 cups of batter, you're just going to add in your cocoa powder, and if you wanted to add in espresso powder, you can too. And then give that a good mix. Can you pause that? Got your batters all done. You have your chocolate and your regular. You're going to alternate filling in your bundt pan, chocolate and vanilla. You can also put them in piping bags and pipe them into swirls like that. I find it easier just to use a cookie scoop or an ice cream scoop and just alternate grabbing a scoop of chocolate and then grabbing a scoop of vanilla and just alternating it, filling it in as you go. Once you have it all in your pan, this is what it should look like. Alternate in between black and white. A little bit got spilt in the center, but that's fine. It makes a nice size bundt cake. It's not going to be too big or too small. So you're going to pop this into the oven, 325, and you're going to cook it for about 45 to 50 minutes. Make sure you do that, and then we'll come back and top it with the ganache. So while your cake is baking, you want to make your ganache. Now ganache is only 2 ingredients. You can use milk chocolate chips, or I'm going to be using semi-sweet chocolate chips. And you're supposed to use heavy whipping cream, but I'm using half and half. So first you're going to weigh out your heavy whipping cream or your half and half. It's about 80 grams. You want to make sure you use a nice dry dish, no water in there. So you're going to measure out your 80 grams, then you're going to heat this up either in the microwave or on your stovetop until it's nice and hot. I'm going to pop it in the microwave. So after your milk is nice and warm, your heavy whipping cream, you're going to add in your chocolate chips. It's 175 grams of chocolate you need. Little guy needs some. So once you add in your chocolate chips, you're just going to give it a stir. It's going to feel like you did it wrong, but trust the process because it will all come together. Do it nice and gently. If it's just not melting, you can always pop it into the microwave for a couple of seconds. But if you just give it a gentle stir, it will come together. If it seems too runny, you could add more chocolate. If it seems too thick, you can add more cream to it. But it will come together and it will be nice and thick and creamy. I like to make this ahead of time so that it can cool and kind of come to room temperature and get a little bit more solidified, so that it's more of a thick glaze. so that it's more of like a spread and not like a glaze. You don't want it like super runny. You do want it to thicken up so that it kind of stays on the cake instead of just drips right off. So you can see it coming together. And then once it comes together, you just kind of let it rest. You can pop it in the refrigerator for a little bit to speed up the process, or you could just leave it on your countertop, which is probably what I'm going to do, because by the time the cake cools, it should be perfect to spread. So once your cake has cooled, you're going to put it onto a plate or serving tray, and you're going to grab your ganache that we already made. I put mine into a piping bag, but you can drizzle it on top with a spoon or a squeeze bottle or whatever you want. And then I'm just going to drizzle it up and down. I like my ganache a little bit thicker, and I don't like too much of it. I'm not a huge ganache fan, but it does make it. I mean, you can't have a s'mores cake without having chocolate on top. So I am just going to drizzle it on top, and I have a lot of it left over so that when I serve it and I slice it up, I can always drizzle more on top. So that looks good for me. And then I have some extra graham cracker crumbs here that I am just going to sprinkle on top. And this is kind of as many as you want or as little as you want. And then the best part is going to be the marshmallow. So once you get all your graham crackers crushed over top, I love the graham cracker part of s'mores. So I'm going to put extra graham crackers on top for me. Actually, when I make s'mores, I prefer the graham cracker and marshmallow and no chocolate. Extra marshmallow, no chocolate, or white chocolate, but I made it the traditional way today because my kids absolutely love it. So you can see how the ganache is not dripping down like a glaze. It's nice and thick. That's because it was slightly refrigerated and or firmed up. So when you do that, it won't drip down. So it looks perfect just like this. So I'm just going to do it and top it with the marshmallows. You got your graham crackers in there. You're just going to fill the center with some marshmallows, and this is obviously the best part for me is the marshmallow center. And you're just gonna fill it up, maybe one more right here, and now we're going to torch them. Ready to torch. If you have a kitchen torch, you're just gonna torch it slightly. I wouldn't recommend putting it into the oven because it won't work. So I've just torched my marshmallows. I had it on a little high. So I'm just torching them, letting them get a little crispy. This is a really great kitchen torch. Obviously it works really well. And it's really great. So I'm just torching them, getting them nice and crisp on the top. If you don't have a kitchen torch, you can do it really quickly in the oven and then just pop them on top, but a kitchen torch definitely makes it. I would not put, if you don't have a kitchen torch, I would not put the whole cake back in the oven and do it just because of the chocolate. I would definitely not do that. So, oops, we blew it out. So that is that, and it looks magnificent. And I am going to let those marshmallows cool for a little bit until I cut into it, but that's how it looks, and it looks so good. And we'll test it in a couple minutes. The cake, when it's all done, it looks amazing. I can't wait to cut into it. So let's cut into it and see what this crumb looks like. I'm going to cut it into the side right here that didn't get smushed. Oh, look at that swirl. It looks amazing. Nice crumb texture. It looks so, so good. So now the next thing is to take a bite. It's definitely super moist and super delicious. The ganache makes it The graham crackers in it are so good. I think the next time to add more marshmallow flavor is to add in some like dried marshmallow bits in there or something like that to give it a little bit of marshmallow flavor. But I think when I serve it, I'll serve each one with its own little toasted marshmallow on top and a little bit more ganache. All in all, it's a super delicious cake. Very flavorful, very moist. I have to say it makes just enough. It's so good. Make sure you try this one. And make sure when you serve it, you give each person, each slice, its own toasted marshmallow. So if you want to join me on my journey to make all the bundt cakes in the Bundt Cake Collection, make sure you follow me and subscribe.